What they gotta do? What?
Welcome to a brand new video. This is your boy Japanese Tutor. We're doing our most popular openings. We're gonna keep on with that, and we're gonna start off fresh. We're gonna teach you how to know all the most popular openings and the modern ones. And we're going over some modern ones today. We're starting off with the modern Benoni. Now, please, if you learned something, consider subscribing because there are a whole bunch of other videos, and I'm always uploading new lessons. It's always free on YouTube. Do your man a solid. All right, and we are following Jeremy Silman's book, and I'm going to read what the text has to say, and then I'm going to explain. For those of you who are new to the series, I'm going to explain some of the stuff I do. So for the people on Twitch, here you go. Here's my YouTube. Oh, thank you for subbing. So the modern Benoni defense. This very sharp opening delineates the plans for both sides very quickly. The moves, and I'm just going to go right into the moves. What is my FIDE rating? I do not have a FIDE rating. My rating is 1860 USCF. So D4, knight F6, C4, C5, D5, E6, knight C3, E captures D5, C captures D5, D6, E4. This is the modern Benoni. Okay, and it creates advantages for both sides. White has a pawn majority in the center, while black has a pawn majority on the queen side. All further play will relate directly to these imbalances. Black will try to expand on the queen side, getting his pawn majority into motion by playing knight b8 to a6, and then back here to help that b pawn go to b5 and then potentially b4, also get the a pawn rolling. Then you can also play rook b8, b7 b5, a7 a6, and white has a similar idea, but it's going to be in the center. So they're going to play f2 f4, they're going to play knight f3, and eventually try to push e5. Naturally, as both sides rush to employ their majorities, they will also take a bit of time out of what they're planning to kind of prevent the opponent from doing what they want to do. And I always say that to my students. Prevent your opponent from what they're doing. If you can stop your opponent from making a plan happen in 4 moves, let's say, and you prevent them, like let's say 2 moves, they have to deal with that, and you're able to continue your plan, then you are ahead in tempo and potentially winning. So always think about, how can I get the most tempi out of the game? Tempi is the plural form of tempo. So, okay, for example, let's say they play g6, knight f3, bishop g7. The bishop is not only actively placed here, it also aims at e5. Okay, and will make white's advance a little bit harder to achieve. Bishop e2, castle castles, and a6. Knight a6 followed by knight c7 is also possible. I usually play a6 here. Okay, a4, preventing this, right? Because let's say they play another move. Let's say they try to develop their bishop. Then we're just going to say, yo, b5 is available for us. I'm going to play b5, right? So take time, and as a white player or as any player, take time to stop your opponent from what they want to do. Okay. After a4, rook e8, preventing them from playing the e5 push. Queen c2, connecting the rooks after the bishop moves, and naturally we're going to develop the bishop, although we don't know where the bishop should go. So this is kind of giving us a move to say, hey, where should the bishop go? Normally, I think f4 is one of the key squares to try to push e5. And knight bd7. When both sides will experience some difficulty in employing their pawn majorities, white has gained control over b5 while black has gained control over e5. The battle for these points will rage on, and of course, it would be a particularly difficult game for both players. Very nice. So the modern Benoni is really nice. There is one thing that Anand was playing. So d4, d4, c4, and on this, and let's say e4, bam. Okay, and this is kind of an interesting opening, some Benoni-esque, but instead they have here, where you kind of wait to see what black wants to do. You see that this is one of the main keys of this opening is to trade off this bishop for this bishop. This bishop is the bad bishop. If you look at the last video, we determined that if your central pawns are on the color of the bishop, then that's a bad bishop, and then this would be the good bishop. In cases where there are no central pawns or your bishops are free, then they're both good bishops. So our plan, try to develop, and we can actually delay castling. We can instead play like this. Some people play h6 here, but you can wait till they play knight f3 or knight e2 to decide if you wanted to play h5 instead. So h6 or h5 are the case here. So let's say here, here, let's say if here, then okay, we're like, yo, just come. I want to trade off. If you're allowing me to trade off, I'll trade off. You could also take here. That's a tactical blow, right? Saying, hey, I want to trade off, but if you take, then I'm going to take here, right? So you got to be careful of that. Don't prevent your opponent's mistakes either. If your opponent can make a mistake, leave it open if it doesn't hinder your plans. Okay, next. Oh, I am Advanced Chess. Welcome. Where are you looking? I'm looking at the board. No, I'm looking at Jeremy Soman's book. Okay, take care, mate. All right. So, Nimzo Indian defense. A lot of you should know this. The Nimzo Indian. This is an extremely popular opening. I think in Lev Albert's book, Openings Explained for Black, he goes into this in detail about playing both the Nimzo Indian and the Bogo Indian and how to play both. I think it's a very good book for beginning players. So check it out. All right, so d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4. The bishop move pins the knight and fights for the control of the e4 square. Let's see. And pretty much every top grandmaster has played this once at least. Black shows a willingness to give up his bishop in exchange for a free development and play against the white's doubled pawns. And that's actually a case, so sometimes you can even play like b6 here and then put the knight here and put the rook here, c5. That's a plan for some of these. I actually won a few really nice games by just following that simple plan. One common strategy, known as the Rubinstein variation, is if e3, c5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop d3, bishop captures c3, b captures c3, d6. And these two bishops aren't effective because the central pawns are kind of on both of the squares, and you are also fighting for this square. And they can't readily take here because we can just play e5, and what do they really have? If they take, we can take, let's say, take here. We can even, yeah, we can take with the knight. We can see. Whoa, oops, not that. And we have a really fun game. Central pawns, these this bishop really can't move. This bishop really can't move. You might want to trade it off, as our bishop has clear targets. So if we can exchange this knight for that bishop and play these two bishops against each other, I think we're going to have a really good game. Okay, back to the example. Okay, and another line. Let's go back to move 4. Another line, sometimes called the Capablanca variation, and at other times called the classical variation, shows the bishop in better light after queen c2. White is willing to waste some time to prevent the doubling of his pawns. So castle, a3, b captures c3, queen captures b6. Now this is a very important move, b6. If white has not played g3 when they play d4 or d4 opening, then you should possibly consider playing b6 yourself and controlling this a8 to h1 diagonal. Very important. Now this move is actually multi-purposed. Here and here. Also with the plan of playing c5 maybe after something like this, or maybe even playing knight a6 and then playing c5 after the rook comes to c8. Many different plans here, and it's a very exciting opening to play. And he says after b6, when white's two bishop can easily become very active, but black's lead in development and ability to hit the center with c5 or d5 compensates for this. So white's bishops can get very active, but you can play c5 and d5 and crash the center extremely quickly. Perhaps the most striking case of colliding ideas occurs in the same-ish variation. So let's go back. a3 takes, b takes, castles f3, b6, and e4, knight e8. White's two bishops are strong here, and his large center is impressive. Black scoffs at all of this and will take aim at the weak c4 pawn. This is weak. And bishop a6, followed by here, and eventually c5, rook c8, and trying to put a lot of pressure on this. What's more important, white's pluses or black's? Who knows? Who knows whose advantage this is? And this is why this is a really popular opening. Okay, and let me know if the stream is lagging, guys. Thank you. Ooh, we're gonna get into some very, very juicy territory with the orangutan. According to the Polish Grandmaster Tadakawa, he was thinking about queenside thrust while visiting a zoo. Trying to come up with a proper name for b4, he entered the ape compound, saw an orangutan, and this became known as the orangutan opening. Some people call it the Polish as well. With one b4, White grabs queenside space and prepares to place his bishop on the active b2, b8 diagonal. On the negative side, White has ignored the center and will eventually lose time defending his b-pawn, which is hanging out to dry on b4. Black has lots of playable answers, but the most promising is the obvious and logical e5, grabbing the center and creating an immediate threat against b4. The bishop is now attacking b4. Bishop b2, bishop captures, knight f6. We can take stock of the plans for both sides. Black has given up the important central e pawn for the white's b pawn. This exchange makes white happy, since he now owns a central majority of pawns, and due to this, white will eventually try to push these pawns down the board and grab space in the middle. As promising as this may sound, White's long-term structural plus is more than counterbalanced by Black's latent development and active pieces. Black will gain further time by castle, followed by rook e8, when White can easily fall prey to a quick attack. So what you want to do in this opening is kind of play along this line. Maybe play here like this. Let's say something. It's a sim move, I guess. You can play here, you can play here, a3. Let's say they play bishop e7, just knight f3, and if knight here, just play back. And all we want to do is just keep developing. Normally, we can have a double V in Kettle. If you want, you can even develop this way. You can develop this way. There's so many different ideas, but the idea is you have a central advantage. So you should start pushing your majority when you can. Okay. All right, and for the last one, we're going to do the Petroff defense. The Petroff was actually employed by a lot of top grandmasters, and it has a reputation for being kind of drawish, but it can actually have some fire in it. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6. This should be the start of the Petroff. So the Petroff is played to avoid any huge structural differences in the position, and as a result, to keep things as equal as possible. Some openings like the Sicilian defense and the French defense are counterattacks that strive to wrest the initiative from white. Other openings, like the Petroff, seek to nullify the advantage of white's first move and achieve simple equality. White's two main continuations, d4, knight captures bishop, d3, d5, knight captures e5, bishop g6. The popular knight d7 leads to a quieter game instead of bishop d6. But this is when black has managed to continue the symmetry, but the play will soon heat up. White will strive to destroy black's support on the e4 by playing c2, c4 at some later point. And it can become rather complicated. Or we have another move. You can play knight captures e5, d6. If knight captures e4, queen e2, and you win at least a pawn. d4, d captures e5. You can do either to this and you're up a pawn, right? 4, 3, 3, 3. So don't fall into that trap. But d6, knight f3, knight captures, d4 and d5. The exchange of the e-pawns and lack of central tension gives black good chances for equality. It is also worth mentioning that American champion Frank Marshall actually has a chess club in New York City. Well, it was his house and he made it into a chess club. I believe that was the story. Who liked to play for a win on the black side around the turn of the century, gave it up because of Queen E2. Okay, so Queen E2, Queen E7, D3. Oh, I see before. Because of Queen E2. So instead of here. And he said that there weren't really any chances here. It was just so drawish for black. I like to play this after they take. I like to play knight c3. Just saying, hey, you can take this. It's kind of great on the club level because now you take and now your bishops are active. Castle queenside, bam, very easy play for white. Although the advantage is minimal, and maybe it's even equal at this point. That's the way I like to play for white. Just get my bishops on open lines and attack that way. Okay. And thank you guys so much for participating in the lesson. If you have any questions, comment down below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, let me know what I can do better next time. Signing off, Japanese Tutor, signing off. Take